This is President Joe Biden, who is serving his first term in office, and this is his Vice President, Kamala Harris. Looking ahead to 2024, one of two things could happen. Biden will seek re-election, or Biden will decide not to run for a second term. And this was a concern during the 2020 campaign and was brought up repeatedly by members of the press.
If elected, you would turn 82 at the end of your first term. You'd be the oldest president in American history.
Are you willing? Churchill.
Are you willing to commit American history?
Oh, American history.
Yes. Are you?
I was joking. That was a joke.
Okay.
Gotta love that joke, Biden.
Are you willing to commit tonight to running for a second term if you're elected next November?
No, I'm not willing to commit one way or another. Here's the deal. I'm not even elected one term yet, and let's see where we are.
Throughout the campaign, there was speculation that Biden would not serve for more than one term, so the choice of his running mate was more important than ever before.
What are the qualities you're looking for in this person?
The first and most important quality is someone who, if I were walked away immediately from the office for whatever reason, that they could be president. And the public look at that person and say, she is capable of being president of the United States tomorrow.
But instead of doing that, he chose Senator Kamala Harris, and we know how that's working out.
You would be 78 entering office, and you have said yourself that you are a transition candidate. Does that mean a one-term president? What does that mean?
No, it doesn't mean.
So you're leaving open the possibility you'll serve 8 years if you get elected?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. He's open to it. That's nice. And that means that there's a chance that Biden, for whatever reason, may not seek a second term. And this was brought up again during his first press conference as president by CNN's Caitlin Collins.
So is that a yes that you are running for re-election?
Look, I don't know where you guys come from, man. I've never been able to travel. I'm a great respecter of fate. I've never been able to plan 3.5 years ahead for certain.
He's never been able to plan 3 or 4 years ahead, yet he went on a 2-year campaign to get a job that lasts 4 years. Got it.
And if you do run, will Vice President Harris be on your ticket?
I would fully expect that to be the case. She's doing a great job. She's a great partner.
And do you believe you'll be running against former President Trump?
Oh, come on. I don't even think about it. I have no idea. I have no idea whether there'll be a Republican Party.
What?
I have no idea whether there'll be a Republican Party.
Yeah, Biden's not running. So for 2024, the Republicans need to choose a nominee that can either A, beat a sitting president, which is not as easy as you'd think, or B, choose a nominee that can beat Vice President Kamala Harris, which should be a piece of cake. But they need to choose the right nominee. And yes, I know it's early and no one has actually officially declared their candidacy, but thanks to the suggestion of several of my viewers, let's take a look at the top potential candidates and rank them on this handy tier list. Let's start with former Vice President Mike Pence. During the early days of the pandemic, Pence was a logical and calming voice compared to Trump's sometimes bombastic responses to the press. This gave Americans a glimpse into what a Pence presidency might possibly look like. After the election, however, Vice President Pence distanced himself from President Trump, and this was seen as a betrayal of sorts, and for all intents and purposes, Vice President Pence goes in the F tier. Ambassador to the United Nations and former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley. In 2015, then Governor Haley led the charge to remove the Confederate flag from the State House.
The Confederate flag is coming off the grounds of the South Carolina State House.
Then there's the fact that she was the first Indian American to hold a cabinet-level position. This effectively makes her bulletproof when it comes to the inevitable charges of racism by Democrats. But many Republicans see her as a neocon whose rhetoric could get us into a war with Iran or Syria, not to mention that she's been very vocal with her criticism of Trump, just so that she can score points with the media. So Ambassador Haley goes in the C tier. C for criticism. Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa. She has a solid record in the Senate. She's pro-life and very strong in the Second Amendment. And when Trump was looking for a conservative running mate to boost the ticket, he asked Ernst to be his running mate. But she declined by saying that, "I made that very clear to him that I'm focused on Iowa. I feel that I have a lot more to do in the United States Senate, and Iowa is where my heart is. But according to divorce papers, Ernst actually turned it down because it would have made her husband jealous. He hated any successes I had and would belittle me and get angry anytime I achieved a goal. Nothing more attractive than a powerful woman, huh? Senator Ernst goes in the D tier for dominated and divorce, whatever. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik from New York. She is currently serving her 4th term in the House, and recently her profile was boosted as she replaced Liz Cheney as the chair of the House Republican Conference. According to 538.com, Stefanik voted the opposite of the Trump position 22.3% of the time, and the media was quick to point this out in an effort to undermine Stefanik.
Liz Cheney voted with Donald Trump about 93% of the time. Whereas the Republican who is due to replace Liz Cheney in her leadership job, a New York Republican named Elise Stefanik, she only voted with Donald Trump 78% of the time. In terms of allying herself with Donald Trump, in terms of how Trump governed, Cheney is much Trumpier than Elise Stefanik.
So Maddow is criticizing Stefanik for being less aligned with Trump. And you'd think the Democrats would celebrate that as a good thing. But in reality, it's not a bad thing. It just means that Stefanik isn't a mindless sheep and actually has opinions of her own. So with that, Congresswoman Stefanik goes in the C tier. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. The RNC aimed to boost his profile by giving him the response to Biden's joint address to Congress, and that speech was generally well received by Republicans. While he does check a box or two when it comes to identity politics, he just announced his 2022 candidacy for his 2nd and last full term in the Senate. So something tells me that he'll hold off and run in 2028. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Easily, he's the most experienced and well-rounded person on the list. He's a former officer in the United States Army, served in the House for 3 terms, and was the CIA director under Trump, and of course, served as Trump's Secretary of State. However, he's not that energizing as a presidential candidate. At this point, he'd be better suited as a United States Senator or even a governor somewhere. He's smart and could easily outmatch Biden or Harris in a debate. He's just not that exciting, I don't know. So Secretary Pompeo goes in the C tier. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri. He's a rising star who isn't afraid to take on big tech or issues like critical race theory. And if Republicans take back the House and the Senate in 2022, he's going to be a major force to be reckoned with. As a presidential candidate, however, he lacks experience and hasn't even served a full term in the Senate, so I will hold Hawley to the same standard as I did to Barack Obama, who didn't serve out a full term either. Hawley is effectively D tier with B tier potential. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. You may remember that Cruz ran for the nomination back in 2016. Ultimately, he was no match for Trump, and in the end, only won 25% of the delegates during the primaries. Surprisingly, despite their very bitter rivalry, Cruz became one of Trump's biggest allies, and was even put on a list as a potential Supreme Court pick. Even though Cruz has grown his brand and has become less of a polarizing figure among Republicans over the last few years, he's still generally polarizing. And that's a liability when it comes to winning over moderates and independents in the general election. Senator Cruz goes in the D tier, but would be an S tier Supreme Court justice, so let's hope that happens. And that brings us to the fantasy wish list section. First, Tucker Carlson. Conservatives and libertarians would love to see him run, but I don't think that Tucker is stupid enough to want the job, so. Besides, he's doing a great job as a 4-star general in the culture war. So let's take him out of consideration. The Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro. Super smart guy, which means he's probably too smart to actually enter the race for president, at least for 2024. Candace Owens. I like Candace, but if you follow her on Twitter, you'll know that she's way too reactionary and confrontational to be president. While she makes a great lieutenant colonel in the culture war, she is not remotely commander-in-chief material. F tier. And now, let's go to the speed round. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Christie goes in F for F that guy. Congressman Dan Crenshaw of Texas. He's more of a culture warrior than commander-in-chief material, plus he's open to the idea of red flag laws. And while some may find them reasonable, most law-abiding Republicans do not. F tier. Senator Marco Rubio. let's just say that he's the wrong Florida man. F tier. Former Senator Bob Corker. He hates Donald Trump, which firmly places him in the F tier. Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska. He voted to convict Trump for the events of January 6th. F tier. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. More like Bland Paul, am I right? Don't get me wrong, we all like Rand Paul, but when he ran in 2016, he dropped out after finishing 5th in the Iowa caucus. And in 2024, with more exciting candidates waiting in the wings, it's unlikely that he'll run again in 2024. Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He can't even send the National Guard to secure the southern border for his own state. But yeah, sure, really effective governor. F tier. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Hard pass. F tier. And that's it for the speed round. We'll be right back. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Cotton is one of the smartest people in politics and one of the most outspoken, but in a good way. He's pro-2A, very anti-CRT, and knows his way around foreign policy. It's all but a guarantee that he would be tougher on the CCP than any other president in history. And with that, Senator Cotton goes in the A tier. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Noem has served in Congress for 4 years, and as a governor, she has executive experience, which is always a big plus. Noem is easily one of the more conservative people on the list. For example, she's very pro-Second Amendment, and as governor, abolished the permit requirement to carry a concealed handgun. On top of that, she was one of the few governors that didn't mandate masks or order lockdowns. South Dakota is all the better for it. Governor Noem goes in the A tier, and if Trump ends up running, she would be an easy pick as his running mate. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is easily the best governor in the United States. He's data-driven and science-based, and he didn't lock down his state to great success. And when it comes to the media, he will call them out on their BS in real time.
I'm not dismissing, but here's the facts. Right now, excuse me.
The left has tried to take him down with smears and garbage like the hashtag #DeathSantis, but the fact is, he's being attacked because he's a major threat to them. Governor DeSantis firmly goes in the S tier. Not only would DeSantis win against Biden, but he would decimate Kamala Harris's political career. It would be over in a minute. And finally, we get to the elephant in the room, and that would be former President Donald J. Trump. Trump is still immensely popular, and if he decides to run, he would handily beat every single person on our list, with the possible exception of DeSantis. But if Trump runs, which is very likely, DeSantis won't, so it's not an issue. He'll wait until 2028. Only dummies like Kristi, Sasse, and Corker will bother, and spoiler alert, none of them will ever be president. With that said, the last 5 or 6 years with Trump have been a f***ing roller coaster. But maybe things will be different if he doesn't get his Twitter access back, right? Yeah, wishful thinking, I know. And of course, if Trump does run, it will open the door for Democrats and the media to relitigate the last several years, and that could be a turnoff to a lot of voters. Overall, President Trump goes in the B tier. Now, I know that a lot of you would like to see a Trump-DeSantis ticket, but I don't see it. Because let's face it, Ron DeSantis playing second fiddle to anyone is a non-starter. And that's it. Let me know your choice for 2024 in the comments. Be sure that you're still subscribed to the channel, and I hope to see you next time. If there is a next time.